is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 125. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... We're midweek here in Austin, Texas. Looking like there might be some rain this weekend, but beautiful day today. How you feeling, man? We're a couple days removed from the letdown of the weekend. I read your match preview. We'll get into that. I think you're feeling all right. What's going on?
I am feeling all right, man. I'm looking forward to this game. Obviously, we haven't seen Philly. They're a great club, and it'll be fun to see them up close and personal. I've had a great week so far. You see the new trucker headset. So I got that equipped, and the preview was fun, man. It was a lot of interesting information to dive into about how they've built out this roster and this type of stuff that Curtin likes to deploy to conquer their opponents. They're off to a sluggish start, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm just looking forward to being back at the Q, rain or shine.
Same. And hey, you're sounding good, man. You have the new headset, right? Comes with the new job. Congrats to you, sir.
Thank you.
What's the new job podcast over here?
There we go. Yeah, shout out Krugs for the audio.
Yeah.
Did it for you, buddy.
We always shout out Krugs. Before we jump in to everything we're going to get into today, Philadelphia match preview, we've got some pertinent Austin FC and MLS news that we need to talk about. Best keeper in the world, last business day, and the nonsense. Before we jump into the episode, I'd like to remind you, if you can, take 5 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, seeing the trucker headset, subscribe to the channel. Help us grow the podcast in that fashion. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. Of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. You can also do that by leaving a comment. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Philadelphia, like you mentioned, a little bit of a sluggish start to the season. And then, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, an ass whooping last night down south of the border. But you're on the match preview this week, my friend, so I'll let you take it away. Talk to the people about Philadelphia.
Yeah, like you mentioned there, they're coming off the worst loss in club history, 6-0 at the hands of Pachuca. We watched their teenage team come in and beat our ass, so it's not something that we can just gloss over here that they took such a beating. But they haven't gotten a win all season. They've played 6 games already with CCC, advanced on aggregate versus Deportivo Saprissa. Yeah. I believe is how you say that. Yeah. So they're definitely hungry for a win and probably going to be looking to bounce back in a big way after suffering a humiliating defeat at the hands of Pachuca in the CCC there. Andre Blake has been injured and he has been out. Oliver Zemla.
So Zemla was actually the keeper that was quote unquote in front of Damian Loss at Louisville. He was the incumbent there, and they sold Zemla to Philadelphia.
Oh, I did not know that. That's very, very cool. He's obviously not Andre Blake. Unfortunately for us, Andre is trending in the right direction to be in the net. He's incredibly athletic. He's sound with his positioning, so it's going to be difficult to put some balls past him. This team has been experimenting with a lot of different formations, but a couple of things remain true with a Curtin offense. Jim Curtin, that is the head coach there for the Union. They've been working with this diamond formation in the middle that they use to control the midfield, and they really pick and choose their spots with long balls that they shoot up the sidelines to Gazdag or Carranza. So they're formidable, even though they have, I believe, 5 draws and 1 loss now on the books with CCC involved there. So they're going to be ready to play. I know that we're going to have to be ready to play as well. I look at the sidelines right away. Like, this is a huge matchup for Wolf and their staff. Curtin is going to make adjustments. He's not afraid to experiment with the formation and the lineups. But as I mentioned before, there's a couple principles that they live by to make sure that no matter what they're running out there or who they're running out there, that they're going to be in the right position and executing the game plan that they're trying to do. So it's going to be a tough match, man. But I'm definitely looking forward to it.
You mentioned the coaching matchup there. I think like Jim Curtin's career is about the best hope for Josh Wolf at this point, if he was to remain with Austin FC in the long term, because Jim Curtin, even to this point in like the total number of games that Josh Wolf has managed here in Austin, very, very similar records. And Philadelphia is happy that they held on there and let him work things out. We'll see what happens with Austin FC's capper. Like you mentioned, this is a big one, and it's a big year for the coach. But going back to what you said about Andre Blake, obviously you and I know very well that he has not been active for the MLS matches because he's been part of the reason we've been struggling so much with the best ball team. But he was out there last night. And I don't know, like I got to admit, I didn't have eyes on CCC last night. But giving up 6 goals, maybe he should have sat out another match.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. Curtin, he's got 2 Coach of the Year awards there.
To be honest, I don't know that answer.
I'm pretty sure 2020, 2022. Okay. And I mean, look, Rodolfo Borrell not so subtly hinted at the Philadelphia Union structure and the way that they build their club. So that could be a good little nod in the right direction for Wolf and his staff if Roto's willing to be patient with them. I'm not saying that we're at the talent level, the caliber that they are right now, but we can still build in that right direction. And again, I just want to see how Wolf is going to adjust to what Philly's going to send out at us, depending on their formation and how they want to press us and move the ball forward into the attacking third. As I mentioned, they like to play the long ball. Kai Wagner in the back there. Good player, not a great human being, but that doesn't really matter too much when you're out there on the pitch. I'm really hoping for the same starting 11 that we had last week, unless Seba is fully ready to go and the training staff has said that he can start and we can get 60 out of him. Then maybe we can switch it up, but I don't foresee that happening. If he's not fully available and ready, I hope that he's not on the bench. And we touched on that on the last episode there, that was something that we thought was a bit of a misstep, given the fact that you never know how that game's going to go, right? You go down to CB, you might have to bring Heinz Ike in early, and then you're scrambling to make some moves. So I'm still hoping for that first 11 that we saw last week, with some improvements from Alex Ring in particular. I think that that's going to be a huge thing for us in this game here. Daniel Gazdag is absolutely incredible. I'm pretty sure he has, I have it in the article there, 41 goals in his time in like 96 games with the Union there. So this man is lethal. He takes all their PKs, which he got plenty of last year. But, we have to find a way to contain him with Carranza on the opposite side. So it's going to be interesting, man. But again, I think this is a game that we can get, and we have been preaching that you have to make Q2 a fortress of 3 points. This is where we got to get our wins, particularly now sitting on all these draws and the one loss to Minnesota. You got to get 3 points here, and it's a big matchup, a big game. And I think that we will see Austin a little more aggressive and a little more decisive out of the back in regard to advancing the ball, because Gazdag is going to be very pushed up, as is Carranza. So there will be opportunities to hit them on the counter. It's just, what is the pace that we're going to be doing that at, and how consistently is that going to happen? As we saw last week, we were able to be aggressive at times, but also several times we took our foot off the gas, and we're working out of the back again. You do that versus this team, you could find yourself in some hot water early. So keys to the game for me is, you got to start out hot. You got to make sure that we ride this enthusiasm, this passion that the fan base has at home. Everyone is starved for wins. And again, you get down early here. I haven't heard too many boo birds at the queue, but they could start raining down. Luckily, this isn't in Philadelphia, and the boos and the batteries could be raining down.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in Austin instead of Philadelphia, you would hope that in the stands for the fans.
Reason will prevail.
Reason will prevail.
Very nice.
Well, so that's been in the hopper for a season now. Yeah, man, I'm with you. I don't know how many notes I really have to add on that Austin side. What are, just to play devil's advocate here,
Mm-hmm.
you think are some of the changes we could see if Josh and the coaching staff wants to mix it up a little bit? I'll just go first. The one that in my head, I went first to the midfield, but I don't see how after last week you can take Diego Rubio out of that, 10 spot or like kind of the second forward, whatever you want to call it. We already talked about, we know we can't take Johan out of there right now.
Yep.
And I'm not quite ready to give up on Alex Ring there. It could be Danny, but I think we see Ring. The spot I think we might see the change is Emi Rigoni maybe in there for Ethan Finley. I don't think that's super likely. I do think we see the same 11, but do you have any thoughts on where you could maybe see a change happening?
Yeah, to me, my mind went right to Danny in front of Johan for Alex there. I think that he's due for a good game, and we would need it. Now, I mentioned that I want to see the first 11, but if I'm forced into making a decision about where I could see us seeing some rotation, I think it is Danny. I really hope Rigoni does not get the start over Finley. Again, with that speed up the sideline, you're going to have to contain Kai Wagner. And that is not something that Emmy can really do in regard to putting pressure on the defense and then being able to track back and still be in formation. So if something does come, I hope it's Danny. No way you can take Rubio out unless Seba's ready to go.
Right. There's sorry to interrupt. I just don't see any way he's starting this week. Because if he, obviously, if we thought he was going to get in the game last week, but knowing that he was basically just a DNP CD there, right? Yeah. Dressed, but he was never going to play. I just don't see him being ready for 60. They're clearly being very cautious, or at least not letting on how serious that hamstring strain was, because it was after week 1, right? Josh was like, we don't expect it to be too serious, but we're coming up on a month here.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if he was ready to go for a full 60, like you said, and get the start. I would be shocked at that. But if it does happen and he is ready, then yes, you slot him obviously back into the 10, push Diego, and then you can bring Giassi off the bench. Yeah. And I would really like that. And then, at our ceiling, that's going to be our best lineup. So
yeah,
hopefully, fingers crossed. I mentioned in the article that I've been praying to the soccer gods, sitting at my altar.
Very nice.
Didier Drogba, been speaking with him, just making sure that, that hammy's healing up as it should. And hopefully we can get 10 back into this lineup and really see what this team is about. It's easy to make a bunch of judgments, some quick judgments on how we look. And I think that's fair because, again, you can only play with the dudes who are ready and available. And the best ability is always availability. So 10 has not been available, but again, I'm holding out hope that once he's back, the big chances will start to come some more. And I mentioned in the article as well at how excited I am at the prospect of pairing him with Rubio and watching those two work off one another. And the fact that Rubio just has this tenacity, this bite that Seba kind of lacks. And I think that they could really play off each other well in regard to intricate ball play, as well as, being two separate leaders out there on the pitch. One guy who's leading by example, another guy who's on dudes' asses, not afraid to back down from dudes, willing to get shoved into, whatever he has to do, whatever situation, and be physical with guys. So fingers crossed, but I'm definitely not expecting 10 to be ready to go with a full start.
Yeah, I do think he appears off the bench.
We'll take it.
Again, I really don't want to see him on the bench if he can't play. It doesn't it doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree. Right there with you.
The last thing I will add, it was, I think, the second biggest letdown of last weekend for me, after obviously Austin dropping points in stoppage time, was Philly and Seattle getting postponed, because that would have been their 7th match already. This would have been their 4th match in 11 days. And they still have a more congested schedule, obviously, than Austin has played, but that would have been an extra bonus. for us. And man, I think Philly is going to come out swinging here. And if we can escape the first half hour, not giving anything up, then I'm going to feel like, all right, we're here. Like we've absorbed the team that is better. We've absorbed their first blow. And now we can play out this last hour, and hopefully the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you've got 10 out there off the bench and bringing the juice and maybe a winner.
That would be awesome. I mean, one of the downsides of the fact that Pachuca just beat the hell out of them was that they rotated their guys pretty heavily, because that match was already over by pretty much halftime. So I don't know if you got a chance to see their lineup that they rolled out for Sporting KC, but heavily rotated, a lot of reserve guys. So they're feeling the impact of all of these games really early, and that's going to be something that we can hopefully capitalize on. And like you said, they should come out prepared, ready. Curtin's going to have them amped up, and if you can take that first punch and roll with it, then you can potentially steal 3 points here.
Yeah. And if they do come out and rotate, like you mentioned, like they did at SKC a week and a half ago, then you have to be mentally strong enough to attack and take advantage of that, right? Where we haven't done that in the past against teams that are heavily rotated. So it'll be very interesting. I'll be watching maybe even more intently for the Philadelphia lineup than our own come Saturday evening. And I will mention that SKC match, they drew it. Should have been a loss. That was one of the I would say top 3 or 5 mistakes that these replacement officials have made. You can go look up the throw in there from right before the equalizing goal in stoppage time. Tough look there.
And I mean, in their matchup with Chicago, they had to come back twice in that game, and they get a header from Gazdag in like the 94th. So they easily could be saddled with 2 losses here. In the article, I do mention that exact thing that you brought up. Keep your eye out for who they're going to start and what the formation is going to look like. And then we can really start to see and conceptualize how this team is going to look versus us.
One thing left to do, prediction time. I know this is not the first Austin FC loss that you were predicting on this podcast, E. So how much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday?
I got us 2-1 over top of Philadelphia Union.
Okay. Any you calling your shot on any goal scorers here? Are we going to see a forward get one in the back of the net?
I do think that Rubio scores. We saw him come on fast and furious in preseason, and we need that now. We really need that goal scoring ability, particularly with 10 not being out there. So if he can net an early one and we can ride the crowd to the finish line, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape.
I'm going a 1-1 draw here. It's tough for me to predict a clean sheet against this Philadelphia team, rotated or not. We know they're going to be able to bring on quality if they don't start with it right off the rip. I do think we find the net here at home. I would love to see Rubio get one. Got to take shots first. I think no shots for him or Zardes last game. And technically none for Obi either, because the one shot he had that was slightly off target got whistled for offside. So I know everybody, this is going to be the key to the game for everybody previewing this match is, right, get the offense going, get more opportunities in that half. So hopefully we see that. 2-1 for E, 1-1 for me, and we will see you all at the Q on Saturday night. E, anything else for you before we move on?
Indeed. One more thing. You like we talked about, this team has played a ton of games, so they should be a little sluggish, not fully ready, and that can lead to some fouls. And as we saw with our set pieces versus St. Louis City, they look super improved this year, and that could be an opportunity to go ahead and steal one off these boys.
So moving on here, a couple pieces of news. The first is the Copa Tejas committee, which of course, is in charge of the supporters-driven cup the shield rather, among all the professional teams in Texas. Then of course the Copa Tejas trophy between the 3 MLS sides, announced the format for this year's competition. We are going away from the first home and away match between each team. We have the uneven schedule between Dallas, Austin, and Houston again. We are now going to count every match in the Copa Tejas standings, and the winner will be determined on a points per game basis. And like, on one hand, I take this as, all right, hell yeah, like, we've got more Copa Tejas matches now.
Yeah.
But with the uneven schedule, and this is on MLS, now Dallas, on paper, has a leg up because 60% of their Copa Tejas matches are at home. Austin, right behind him, 50%. 3 out of the 6 matches they play against Dallas and Houston are at home. 1 home match against Dallas, that's in 2 weeks. And then 2 home matches against the Dynamo. Houston, 40% of their Copa Tejas matches at home. So, again, at an even bigger disadvantage than Austin is here. So, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, it's not my favorite. It's also not something that's going to make me, like, go boycott Copa Tejas or anything like that. But I just think the league, and we're going to have 30 teams next year, right? So I think the schedule will be more balanced, but I would have just liked to see if they could have. Maybe they tried and they couldn't, to make the schedule even for all of these regional rivalries, right? If you're like LAFC, LA Galaxy, and San Jose. If you're Pacific Northwest, the Cascadia Cup, right? And I'm not familiar with their schedules this year, but it would just be nice to be able to make that all uniform if you can. I'm not a schedule master, so I don't know, but your thoughts there.
I'm with you right there. I think it's something that MLS should be capitalizing on. It just adds an element to the game. Everyone loves a rivalry matchup. You know, not saying that we're necessarily rivals with Frisco or the Orange team, but to have that, you know, kind of extra energy, the extra emphasis on the game is just a really good thing for this league and helping grow and bring people in. So it seems that this is just going to keep evolving. And I don't know if we're ever going to have a standard format that just, we'd be like, all right, 20 years from now, this is when we started doing this way with Copa Tejas, and this is how it's been. So I'm not overly disappointed. Again, last year, I thought it was strange that, you know, some of the games didn't count and some of the games did. So hopefully it can get evened out, as you mentioned, with the 30th club coming in, and we can get a more, cohesive schedule with all these teams. But, you know, it's just something that we can really capitalize on for the grassroots part of this league that is so passionate about their clubs, like all these supporters groups, these fans that are always at the games. And like, you just want to have that rivalry built in, you know, and it's difficult to be overly excited about something like this when there is this discrepancy in how many home games you're getting, and obviously the impact of how difficult it is to win or get a result on the road in this league.
Yeah. Well, I'm only going to bitch about it again if we get affected by having to play more on the road. You know, if we just get beat straight up and we're not even close, then all right. But we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely withhold that right.
Yeah. there's other information with this in terms of like where the photo opportunities will be, when the trophy is going to be presented, you know, standardizing some of those things that have been a little bit controversial or frustrating to fans in the past. So you can go on Twitter at Copa Tejas. You can find all of that information. They tweeted that out today. And next, much more important here, Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert tweeted out today that there is an MLS roster rule change expected to loosen the U22 player restrictions this summer. So he writes on The Athletic that MLS, key roster rule change in MLS is in the works and is expected to go into effect this summer, with the league planning to decouple designated player spots and U22 initiative slots. Sources briefed on the talks told The Athletic. So, of course, right now, MLS clubs to use all 3 U22 spots, as we did starting off in our expansion season. You cannot have the 3 senior DPs or full DPs, however you want to refer to them, right? You have to have a young DP as your 3rd DP, or you have to have a player that's under that max targeted allocation money level, which is right around 1.63 million or something like that at this point. Initially, our max TAM guy was Tomas Pochettino. Now it's Alex Ring. And we've talked about plenty on this podcast, right, about how those pieces would be in motion this coming off season, or we could buy down Alex Ring with allocation money and open up that DP slot. But as soon as I read this, I got real excited and thinking immediately well, that means we just have a DP spot, right? And if you read through Tommy's article here, which is very short, he makes a point and says in here, quote, Austin FC needed their third designated player to be Alex Ring because his contract is under the max TAM threshold. Under the proposed change, they could sign another senior DP if they wanted. So this is making the path to that summer designated player arrival even more clear and smooth for a nice landing there. You would imagine that Rodo and the front office and the ownership of the club has been aware of these talks for however long they've been going on. I imagine since December at the winter meetings. I don't know why they waited until the middle of the season to make a roster rule change. I understand the perception that is ridiculous. I don't disagree. But in the vacuum of Austin FC, this rule change is huge for us, not just this season, but going forward, because now we, along with every other club, so we're not getting some advantage over other teams, but for the roster build, we now get 3 full DP slots, and we can continue to utilize U22 slots, hopefully in a more efficient manner than we have to this point. But so even then, man, like if you find a Musa stash spot for the last 6 months of his deal between June and December this year, you can bring in not just a designated player, but 2 more U22 initiative guys. And again, for those who don't remember off the top of their head, those slots on the roster in the salary cap work very similarly to a designated player. We can only pay those players up to the max salary cap hit of $683,000 and some change, but their cap hit is $200,000 regardless. And I think if they're under 21, it's $150K against the cap. So this is, again, just another very exciting development in the league that affects Austin FC, in my eyes, in a very positive manner.
I mean, it's just going to make the grand feast of Rodolfo Borrell that much sweeter. With this development, it has to be almost impossible to not forecast that we're bringing in this third DP come the summertime. So I am incredibly excited about that. Shout out Tommy Scoops for, letting the league know that, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. We got the plan, right? The menu's out at the table. We're perusing.
That's right.
Right? We picked a couple appetizers in the winter, and now we're looking for the entree.
I mean, man, I'm just excited because here's the things we know for fact, right? This is going into place. We know for a fact that Rodolfo Borrell has said we have names that you would not believe if I told you. And up until this point, this man has not lied about anything. He hasn't been capping about any sort of roster developments that we're kind of bringing in. Obviously the Abada thing fell through, but that was a Charlotte overpay. But again, we were tied to that late after an unfortunate circumstance with the Celtic fans and Abada. So, the amount of targets and prospects that I can imagine that we have now with this coming into play is just absolutely going to be awesome. So I'm all for it. Super excited.
Yeah, makes that countdown to the summer window even more. I'm just writing it in extra bold marker on my calendar.
Absolutely. And if you want to see the most comprehensive breakdown of our current salary cap, our DPs, what our U22 initiatives look like, you head on over to the northendpodcast.com, the only place you can get that information.
Absolutely. All in one spot, northendpodcast.com. You're turning into quite a professional here, E. Just like you, we've got some segues here as well. Before we talk last business day, we got to stop in and check in on
the best keeper in the world.
Damian Loss, E, and Louisville City FC get their USL season started this Saturday, I believe in El Paso, if I'm not mistaken here, Saturday afternoon. So I know there's a way you can watch USL matches. I think it's ESPN Plus, but you can go to, I'm sure, the Louisville site, the USL site, if you want to catch that match. And again, we are about 3.5 weeks away from Louisville City playing on CBS. So we know we will be tuned into that. But good luck to Damian in his first official USL start here this Saturday. We'll certainly be paying attention.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Super excited for him to get rolling there, man. USL's drawn a lot of interest for me. Like, there's some good players in there. It's really cool.
Well, and again, good players we know now too, right? Among a number of teams.
Yeah, sprinkled throughout the league there.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into last business day here. A little bit of an extended segment because Austin FC2 is back. Before we talk about this Friday's matchup against Tacoma Defiance, real quick, we did get maybe not an official update, but from what I can gather, obviously this time last week, we were raising some red flags, certainly some concerns about the ticketing mechanisms that the club decided to use for the U.S. Open Cup first round match taking place on Tuesday. Weren't sure if everybody was going to be able to get tickets. There were questions about the form that the club sent out to the season ticket holders to request tickets, if that was recording responses properly or not. We have received our tickets. I have seen nothing but season ticket holders who requested tickets saying, yeah, I got them. I haven't seen anybody who said I submitted a request for tickets and I didn't get them. If that is the case and everybody who wanted tickets that's a season ticket holder got them, then false alarm, and well done by them because they judged it right in that.
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Absolutely. They handled it well if that's how it's going to play out. So kudos to them for sure, because it was a sticky situation. And I know that we were kind of on edge about it. But this is a fine solution, and hopefully that place is rocking.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. And the guys sure to be looking a little fresh out there because today Austin FC2 unveils new kits for the 2024 season. I did not see this coming. These, in my opinion, are awesome. Very clean. And you can see up there, little star above the crest. I got to have one of these.
This is a must buy for me. Absolutely. Take my money.
Yeah. Well, good thing we got new jobs, huh?
Yeah, there we go. That's why we got these jobs.
So you can see those kits.
Oh, look at that star.
Yeah, you see those kits on the screen. And if you're just listening in audio form, you can go to the Austin FC2 socials. They posted them, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all that stuff. Or we'll see you out at Palmer Field on Friday, and you can watch those new kits in action. So,
do you know when they're available?
I do not.
Okay.
But as soon as we finish recording, I'll go look it up.
Yeah.
So, before we get into Tacoma, roster compliance date is Friday, I think an hour or two before kickoff, which is like pretty ridiculously close to when the matches start, when like teams are submitting their roster compliance sheets. And Austin FC, I would think we're going to get some sort of flurry of signings or amateur agreement announcements here because by our count, we've got 18 guys on this roster. 2 of them are goalkeepers. So this roster, and I've also heard from guys like Landon and Moises who have been out at press availability, that there are a number of Austin FC2 players out there practicing that they do not recognize, that don't look like the guys who have been announced that are new. So I would think in the next 48 hours, we're going to see some new names.
You'd have to think so, given how thin that roster is right now, which you can go check out at the northendpodcast.com.
You can indeed. And, the window is open in Next Pro until late April as well. So maybe there's signings that are going to come after the season starts. We'll have to see. Real quick, we'll talk about – oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we will see this roster is going to be looking very different than it was last year. So, I'm excited for it. It's always a good time going up there and watching the FC2 boys get vengeance for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and you can get some vengeance here because, a draw. We don't need much vengeance. Yeah. But we'll take a win here on Friday. Tacoma Defiance, of course, the Next Pro team affiliated with the Seattle Sounders, and they were a juggernaut just like us last year. They had 8 more points than we did in the regular season. They were 14 wins, 9 draws, 5 losses, 57 goals for, 36 against, 57 points on the year. They were second only to the 1 seed in each conference, which was Rapids 2, and Crown Legacy FC out east, which is Charlotte's Next Pro affiliate. Looking at the Tacoma roster, obviously we were familiar with some of their guys last year. Abdoulaye Sissoko, Reed Baker Whiting. I forget the first name of the guy who was like Bjorgolfsson or something like that. I think he was a super draft pick a year or two ago. Looking at what they have posted now, I also think we're going to get some signings announced for Tacoma before that roster compliance date because they only have 18 players listed on their roster. Only one of them is a keeper. So I don't think their roster, just like Austin FC2, is fully fleshed out to the public yet. But a couple names that do stick out to me still from last year, Travian Souza, Frank DeRoma. They do have Owen O'Malley, who was with St. Louis City too last year, but a number of names that were giving us issues in the regular season, particularly up there in the regular season, no longer on this roster, at least publicly at this point. So a lot of new faces for Austin FC too. A lot of new faces for Tacoma as well.
I think we talked about this, I don't know, in the summer or something, but these next pro teams are going to see all kinds of rotation and new faces the following season. Shout out my boy, Sissoko. This one's for you, bud. Yeah. They were huge last year. They were very talented. They were large. Bjork Alferson was a beast. Sissoko was a fantastic player, as much as I'm trolling him a little bit there. Reed Baker Whiting has given us fits at the actual MLS level. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'd imagine they'll retool. They have a great program. They're well coached. So, it's going to be fun to see this first game and like how this start of the season starts to like plays out with all the new faces. And most likely, not that I'm familiar with every next pro roster, but I'm assuming that most teams are vastly different than they were the year prior.
I would think so, especially the good teams, right? Because you would think those players either get called up to the first team or they, like a lot of our players from last season, move up to USL, which is a move up. So
Sissoko USL now, right?
Yes, he was. He was somebody that I was kind of hoping we would try to get on one of those supplemental, reserve minimum slots. But USL, he's probably getting paid a little more out there, I would think.
That makes sense.
So let's talk about us, right? Who gets the start here in the opener? And again, we have, I believe, 18 guys on the roster. And I have made up a little lineup prediction here. And we can go through these kind of position by position. Up top, the only true striker that I know of, we have John Santillan on the team, who is a forward, minimal minutes last year. We haven't really seen Sebastian Pino since the Florida trip in the preseason back in January. I think he's raring to go here, getting the start at the 9 and hopefully improving on what was a very solid season for him last year.
He was awesome last year. The way he came on after like the first quarter or first half of that season, and just to see the goals that he was putting in the back of the net was awesome. This lineup looks really great to me. You see Bobo there, Micah, who I love, Farkaloon, who is pretty much everyone's favorite player in the entire organization at this point in time. I'm excited for Deonda, man. The name of the other fullback there is escaping me. Who he's Bonachera, check on the right side there. Fantastic. Ramirez, I'm a huge fan. He might be my favorite player on the team outside of Bobo right now. The way he played and performed in the Next Pro playoffs last year just really was eye-opening to me. Obviously, Sally Maz back there and, new guy Gomez. The largest question for me is Alstrup. We had supreme keeper play last season. And that was part of the best defense in Next Pro. So if he's, somewhere in the realm of what Damian was giving us last year, this team should be good again. And, Coach Utley, good coach, man. So I'm really excited to see these guys get my new kit and go support them.
I think my biggest question is Jimmy out there on Friday or is he on the bench on Saturday? He could do both.
Yep.
But we'll have to see about that and about Tony Gomez because he was on the bench last week too for the first team. Or actually, no, he didn't make the bench last week, but he was called. We signed him to the loan. Yeah. So, and we've only got now 2 more short-term loan agreements for Antonio Gomez. So that's actually an aspect I don't think I thought about until right now. Wondering about Antonio Gomez over Sal Mazzaferro. Did they call up Tony because they want to save Sal's loan agreements for later in the season? I don't know. Speculating 100% there.
I also do not know.
But so this changed pretty drastically with the sale of Val Noel. And I think there were many factors, I think, behind the sale of Noel, partially because we didn't want to use the international spot to bring him to the first team, but also his departure, in my eyes, opens up all the minutes for Micah Burton there in the middle. So hopefully he's taking another step this year. And then you mentioned Deanda. I'm kind of slotting him in there as like the incumbent, right? He's been around, he's been in the system from the academy up to FCito last year. But Bonachera has a pretty nice resume for this level, and he could be pushing him there. So that's another spot that I'm interested to see come Friday. And then Bobo, I think, starts. To my knowledge, we still have Steve Louis-Jean there, who could be battling for a spot in that midfield as well. So even with, the roster not fully built out yet, we've got a couple positional battles here. And, we've got Anthony Garcia on the wing too. And with 3 wingers, 2 of them named Garcia, that's not going to be confusing at all.
No, not at all. But as you mentioned, yeah, it really opens the door for Micah and for him to develop some more. And I think that probably did weigh or was a factor in the departure of Val. Yeah, man, I'm excited, dude. It looks good on paper. Well done.
Yeah, and we'll see about Alstrup and if he's going to be goalkeeper 1 or if it's Aaron Cervantes. Lot to learn here on Friday. Excited for it. Last thing I guess we have to talk about here in last business day is predictions. And you have never predicted an Austin FC 2 draw or loss, so I know you ain't starting with the season opener. How much is FCito winning by on Friday night at Palmer Field?
I'm going to go 3-1. They sneak one past Alstrup, but looking at that attacking third, man, I'm excited to see what this team can do.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. Again, you lose Hafferty, you lose Loss on this back line, you lose Asensio, and you lose Kip Keller, who's doing pretty well with Cincy over the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We've got holes to fill, right? And so I'm looking forward to seeing those guys step up. So 2-1 for me, 3-1 for E, and we don't care how you do it. 3 points, boys, to open the season. We'll be cheering for you.
Let's do it, baby.
All right, we'll close it out with the nonsense here, E, and this is starting to be the part of this podcast project that I dread the most because our best ball team, we talked about how rough it was going to be for us last week, right? Just with the way our injuries were shaping up, etc. But it was even worse last week than it probably should have been because with that Philadelphia-Seattle postponement, we lost 4 players and two defenders and a goalkeeper. So we're already down to 1 defender and 1 keeper. One is Pedro Galese, who gave up 3 goals at home to Minnesota, and the other was Walker Zimmerman, who got hurt again and did not play. So we got 1 point combined from our keepers and our defenders. We know Pedro de la Vega is out. That game was postponed anyways. Driussi still sat. Dante Van Zier picked up a knock, so now we've got another injury, this time to our forwards, and another weekly low, 26 points for us. But do you have anything to add there? Again, we just have to weather the storm here and hope our guys pick it up along the way.
This storm is getting worse, man.
Yeah, it is.
Just shit. That's what I got to add.
Well, that's enough about us because, man, and I told Landon I was worried about Phil West coming into this league. And you see it in the standings. Phil West wins week 3 behind Yorgos Yakumakis and his hat trick, 51 points on the week, opening up a 7-point lead on the rest of the field. Still very respectable scores. 44 for We Are Austin TV, 41 apiece for the Verde Pendant and Moon Tower Soccer, 31 from Texas Ring of Fire. They're still 19 points clear of us. And I know Harry is asking for our address to mail us this spoon in week 3 here. So we've got Phil West, 138. We Are Austin TV, 131. Verde Pendant on their heels, 127. 121 for Moon Tower, 97 for Texas Ring of Fire, and 78 for the North End Podcast. It's going to be like that when you have no defense, no keepers, and your first 2 picks haven't played yet.
Yeah, we might have to change the rules here. Give us some emergency pickups so we can actually have some dudes who are playing. Long season, a lot of time, and we will keep saying that until we are out of time.
Yeah, I like that. Well, let's close it out with the bets. And this was maybe the best part of our weekend last weekend, because the bets got off to a scalding hot start. Could have been our best week in podcast history, I guess, absent us hitting the Columbus 12-1 to win the Cup last year. But for the 3 picks that we had, we went with the Galaxy money line against Nashville. They didn't pull off the win. It was a 2-2 draw. So we missed that at plus 205. But then Atlanta United, we took Atlanta minus 1.5 to really take it to New England. And they did 4-1 victory. So that's plus 165. You can cash that. Maybe the easiest bet we'll make all year. St. Louis City over 5.5 corner kicks, plus 110 against Austin. I think we hit that in the first half. They have not, I already looked, they have not posted corner kicks yet for our match, but we will be watching on Friday evening after that injury report comes out. Then our goal scorers helped us out as well. Missed on Petar Musa plus 400, Luis Muriel plus 160, Hugo Kuipers plus 300, and Joe Paintsil plus 320. But we do hit Yorgos Yakumakis plus 115, Lorenzo Insigne plus 200, and Jesus Ferreira at plus 400. So on the wiki, plus 4.9 units. We are plus 3.3 units on the season now. We are back in black for the first time since this time last year. How's it feel?
I mean, if you're watching on the video, you see me busting out these moves here. Yeah, elated. Gotta be able to compensate for how terrible the best ball is going. So the new format for the bets is looking like a smart call.
Yeah, at least in the small 2-week sample size. So a couple spots we're looking at here this week. Again, you can catch the official picks Friday evening after that injury report is released on the northendpodcast.com. We are right now basically in a pick'em with Philadelphia, plus 155 at home. How are you feeling? I mean, you picked a win. Do you think that's somewhere we're going to end up on Friday?
Yes.
You know what's going to convince me of that? Driussi off the injury report. If he comes off the injury report, even though we would think he's coming off the bench, we're going to get in there, slide in there, plus 155, wherever it's at. We'll have take those good vibes.
Yeah, like that. And then if the corner stuff comes out, we pretty much got to lock that all season until they properly adjust for how many we give up.
Yeah, I know we were talking LAFC at Minnesota. If Reynoso remains out, rested LAFC, that feels pretty good to me. So, plus money there. Dallas is hosting Vancouver. They're at plus money right now, but they had a lengthy injury report in their midfield and on their back line last week. So again, important to wait for these injury reports to make these bets.
Who would have known?
Atlanta in that high octane offense, hosting the struggling Orlando City side. Have some interest there at minus 120. So in terms of the sides, the props, all that, we'll get that on Friday, of course. And then I think this is a place where we can really take advantage of what I've always perceived to be as an inefficient betting market in terms of the American sports books here with MLS. Obviously last year you wouldn't know it given how shitty we were, but let me just read some of these goal props off to you here. Insigne, who I think has scored all 3 weeks, plus 330. Feels pretty nice. Yeah. Bernadeschi plus 400. Don't think he's scored yet, but the talent there.
Yeah, he can definitely score. Who are they matched up with?
Toronto. NYCFC, who has been outright bad.
Looking like doo-doo.
Small field as well. They're in Yankee Stadium there, so we'll see about that. Van Zier for the Red Bulls, plus 300 if he's healthy. Forsberg, plus 350. Nothing from our match, but I did note that DraftKings Sportsbook gives Antonio Gomez better odds to score than Kai Wagner this week. So figure that one out if you're talking about an inefficient betting market. Buonga plus 140. I don't believe he's on the board yet this season. So looking at that. Hanny plus 210. Amal Pellegrino, maybe to get San Jose off the schneid. He's up to plus 320 here. We know about his talent. He's on our best ball team, so we are biased in that fashion. Both those Dallas forwards at home, plus 200. Paintsil, plus 200. We got a lot of options that we can kind of narrow down by come Friday night.
Those are some exciting names and some good numbers to look at. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about that. Tail us now, y'all. Get it in early.
Well, and if you have been checking out those articles, you can see we've got our little motto there in the graphic every week: tail if you dare. And if you did last week, you had some fun. So hopefully we keep it going this week. North End Podcast for match previews, week 4 picks, cap sheets, all of that stuff. Any Austin FC 2 signings come out this week? Boom. As soon as we can, they'll be on the roster there. So northendpodcast.com for all of your Austin FC needs and nonsense. Anything else for you before we get out of here?
No, sir. Can't wait to see all the homies at the Cube.
I second that. Cannot wait for Saturday. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Maybe bring a poncho there on Saturday night and maybe Friday night as well. If we see you out there at Palmer Field, it is a full weekend of Austin FC action. Excited to enjoy it with all of you. And we'll see you back here on Sunday, recapping both matches and everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.